Welcome back, book watchers, to another episode. We are continuing our discussion of His and Hers by Alice Feeney and the January 2026 Netflix TV show adaptation. Reminder, there is some disturbing content in this book, and since we're really getting into the plot this episode, we will be talking about it fully and in depth, so check trigger warnings before listening. I'm your host, Jordyn.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Sarah-Daye.
Okie dokie, welcome back, everybody. We are going to go through this show and all of the fun twists and turns, comparing major scenes. So let's start at the beginning. So the show opens up, and right from the beginning, everything's a little bit different from the show and the book. Some, pretty minor, like you don't lose anything, I don't think. But immediately I'm like, okay, who the heck is Lexi? Where's Kat? And in the book, Kat Jones has the anchor spot, goes out on maternity leave for like 2 years because she has 2 kids back to back. And during that time, our female POV, Anna, takes over the anchor position at the news station. Versus in the show, that's a little bit switched around. Anna is the anchor. She's been the anchor for years. She goes through the loss of her child, Charlotte, who she has with John Bernthal's character, Jack Harper, and she goes off and disappears for a year. And during her absence, that's when Lexi comes in and covers that. So what did you guys think of that change right off the bat? Did it help her? Kind of a negligible difference?
I think it works both ways. I wasn't really too worried about it. I mean, it was a little weird till, when you read the book first, see, what happened here? Why is it backwards? But it didn't change how the story went in my mind, really.
I wonder if they changed it a little bit in the show so that we are not as emotionally attached to Lexi, because in the book she has the children, and then in the show it's just her and her husband, so we're not as like upset with her death because like she's not leaving kids behind.
A little concession, yeah, that can make sense.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And the other thing is it sets up Anna, like, because the whole thing is like, who's the killer, right? And so with Anna having been gone for a year and nobody, not even her detective husband, being able to track her down, you have to wonder, like, what was she doing? Where was she? Was she the one plotting and planning all of these murders back in her hometown for, and especially with the change they made to, the trigger warning scene, the rape scene of the kids. She was the one who was like more brutally assaulted in that scene instead of Catherine Kelly. So it makes more sense for her to have been the one planning all these revenge murders on these other girls. So that's why I thought that was a good change to make, because it gave more like legitimacy, that's the word, legitimacy to Anna as potentially being the killer.
And they added a few red herrings like to her lines and things to make us think that she was the killer. I thought, like, I never thought she was. And I thought all these red herrings were in fact red herrings. There was a line later on in the season where, what is his name, Richard, asks where she's been. I think it's when they were getting kicked out of the hotel, and she says something about having to get gas, but it's when one of the other murders had happened. So it kind of sets it up that she could have committed that crime. And I was like, that's just too in your face. I just don't believe it. I don't think it was her. And in the nature of being a TV show, I thought that they were going to get together in the end. Her and Jack could get back together. So I really didn't think it was him either. So again, like I said in the last episode, I did think that it was Lexi early on. And then when the Alexis thing happened, I'm like, oh, yep, I'm so right. And then so I just waited for it to play out. And every time I saw another red herring like that, I'm just like, nah, it's not her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing of changing the anchors and all that, and the other scene kind of keeps her as the main focus of the show. It really focused in on our main character instead of having all these other characters that are the you're gonna get attached to / you're gonna be given more limelight. So that makes sense too.
Yeah. Well, and Sarah-Daye, and you mentioned Richard, who is Lexi's husband in the show, and even there, his dynamic with Anna is different in the show versus in the book, because in the book they used to sleep together when they were out on assignment. Like before Anna made Anchor and she was just a field reporter, he was a cameraman, and they would hook up all the time. And he was cheating on his wife, and that was fine. And now he's like, okay, now I have a couple of kids. I have to fix my infidelity and be loyal to I love my wife, I love my kids, I don't want to ruin my family. So when Anna kind of propositions him, he says no. Versus in the show, it's, I think, like episode 1, you get a full on like sex scene of the two of them, and
well, and
he's
it's that's a change. It's a reaction to another change, because she sees I want to call him Frank, and that's not his name in the show. Jack sleeping with Rachel. So she's like, it's like revenge sex. Like her husband, because they are separated in the show, not divorced. So her husband is sleeping with this woman, so she's going to go and sleep with somebody else.
Totally.
And get revenge on the woman who took her job by doing it too. So
fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of levels. So I think that fundamental change of Anna being the person losing the anchor position, like fully having it and then losing it, versus her being a temporary stand-in and then having that taken away from her, like you have to make all these other changes to make that make sense. So I don't think any of them really like bothered me though. Like nothing I was like, oh, I wish they had stuck closer to the book. Like they all felt cohesive, at least, even if, as most of us are here on the pod, we're book truthers and we want things to be like shot for shot like the book whenever possible. But I don't think any of these changes were like oh so serious that they ruined like the plot of the story.
Right.
So
if I was more attached to the story, maybe, but it wasn't one that I was like really attached to before, so I could let it go.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we have the murder of Rachel, and that's pretty much, dead on. She's found on top of, her own car. She's stabbed a bunch of times. She's got Two-Face written in nail polish on her nails. Her nails have been cut. All of those like crime scene details are pretty much exactly the same as in the book. And that this is where we first are introduced to John Bernthal's character, Jack Harper. Um, he's the lead detective on the case, and he's been sleeping with her, and so he has to like hide the fact that he's been sleeping with her while still investigating, and like not letting himself get caught up in the investigation. It's all very, very corrupt and not the kind of thing you want from your police force, certainly. But all of that was pretty much spot on, and even their Jack and Anna's first like face-to-face interaction at the police line was pretty spot on too, don't you guys think?
Definitely. That was the one they used in the trailers that kind of hooked me at first too, was that little interaction and seeing, there's something weird going on here with these characters I do like from other things.
Yeah, I think it was smart casting to have Tessa Thompson and John Bernthal in the lead, because I had never heard of this property before. But I was like, oh, I know them from Marvel movies, and I love them in their Marvel movies. Like, I would totally watch something starring the two of them. Like you said, Sarah-Daye, like it's Frank Castle and then it's Valkyrie. Like, what a weird combination. Let's see how this goes. So I think that was smart casting to get people interested in watching a show that like otherwise like there's a million murder mysteries out there. So having those two as your leads kind of makes this one stand out a little bit to get people.
Yeah, 100%. Like this is not something I think I would have gravitated to if it wasn't for those two actors.
Yeah. Okay, so Anna is back in her hometown. The investigation is kind of starting, and she goes to visit her mom, and she finds out that her mom has dementia, and her husband Jack has been kind of helping her out, and they've been trying to reach out to her. So this is another kind of the difference of her having disappeared for a year versus her not having done so in the book. When Jack says like, I've been trying to reach out to you, it's like I feel like it was worse in the book because like she was getting the messages and she was just choosing to ignore them. It felt like she was being selfish, like because she wanted her anchor position so bad. She didn't want to leave that to come and check on her mom who was sick. Versus in the show when she disappears and nobody can find her, it's like, well, she might have just gone fully off the grid and not had a phone and not had any access and legitimately not had any idea that her mom was not doing well. So, and that like plot point is very important, listeners, if you haven't read it or watched it. So keep in mind that mom is dementia addled. I like how both the book and the show kind of give the flashbacks to teenage Anna and like what happened in high school and her connection to all of these other girls. It kind of makes it can kind of get boring, like we're driving from to this place to investigate and this and that, and then like getting the flashbacks of like, oh, it makes sense, like, oh, maybe Anna is the killer because she wants revenge for this, or maybe this person's the killer, they want revenge for that. So I like those flashbacks. I thought they were done well throughout the show too.
Yeah, that's always a good way to kind of give us some buy-in for characters and keep bringing us back to what might have been the inciting issue. Oh, then we go a little further, until you eventually get where you need to be.
Yeah, so I think the next big thing is the murder of Helen Wang. This was also a little different in the show because we actually in the show we actually get to meet Rachel's husband. And we see him contacting Helen Wang. And so that kind of is another layer of what's going on between Rachel and Helen and the husband, like all of that stuff, versus in the book, you don't get those connections, or if they're there, they're not as in your face. So it's a lot more like kind of out of nowhere. You're like, oh my gosh, another person that Anna knew in high school. That's so crazy. Versus in the show, like you're like, oh, she's probably next because Rachel's dead and then her husband's connecting to Helen, and so you get that, you can thread that line together. But I think that scene was done pretty spot on as well. You guys agree?
Yeah. I don't particularly remember. I feel like Helen's death is the well, actually, in the show, Rachel's is pretty quick. But I feel like Helen's death is pretty quick and like not glossed over in a sense, but I don't really care about Helen as much. And then we get to his sister, and that one's a little bit more emotional, and like I just don't, care.
Yeah.
All we ever see of Helen, really, I feel like, is her standing in a room or at a table just doing work or clerical work or something. I almost wish she'd been like a school teacher there at the school or something beloved at that point to give us a reason to buy into her. Otherwise, we just see her as a faceless bureaucrat in the school that is just, probably affecting girls' lives there again further. So,
well, in the book too, I don't think they included this in the show, but in the book, you kind of don't like her because she betrayed. Not that you like Rachel, but she betrayed Rachel and Anna with the test or the paper or whatever it was, where she like wrote the same paper for both of them,
right?
And so she got them in trouble. So you just don't really have, like you said, we don't really have an emotional connection to her whatsoever. So either book and show, it was just, okay, another one is dead.
Yeah.
On
we
to
knew
the next
somebody
one.
else was going to die, so here we are.
Yeah.
This death, though, does kind of introduce the friendship bracelet thing a little bit more than like Rachel. We're focused on the nails and the message and like the stabbing, and there's a lot more. It's outside. There's a lot more going on with that one. But I think the friendship bracelet clue is introduced in Helen's murder, and so that kind of, you get to start drawing those connections between all of the girls, like, okay, like they were all involved, and that's where like the use of the flashbacks is so effective because you, like you said, Chris, like you get to start finding out a little bit more. Okay, they were friends, they were on the same group, that's why they had the friendship bracelets. But then, like you said, Helen betrayed them by messing with their homework assignment that they were bullying her into doing for them, which not great either. The another like red herring clue pointing towards Anna is she's the first one on the scene. She gets a tip that Helen is dead, and she's the first on the scene. And she, in the show, they add the detail that she knows how to like jimmy the lock to get into the school without it like looking as if it had been tampered with or broken into. So I thought that was another like positive addition that the show made to kind of lead you down the wrong path of thinking that it could have been Anna.
Right.
The show also added a town hall scene where you have Anna like soapboxing in front of the town of like, we all have to stick together and that kind of thing. And then you get Jack Harper in there trying to like talk to everybody and, you know, get everybody on the same page of like, I'm trying to do this investigation. Can you guys just like let me work kind of a thing? And then his like hoodlum little sister Zoe comes in and just starts getting into fights and causing problems. And um, I could have done without that scene. Like, I don't feel like it added that much as far as like the mystery. What did you guys think?
I think the stuff with his sister in that was the biggest part. I think that her getting almost blamed by the town of like, starting to get people suspicious with her and kind of starting to point us that way a little bit of like, hey, you knew them, you were there with them. And her having to defend herself a little bit and kind of giving Jack some more buy into because, oh, now my sister's also being fingers pointed at her. And so it gave us more reason to either trust her or not trust her for the viewer watching this.
That's true. Because most of what we know about Zoe's character in the book, we find out through the flashbacks of what she did when she was a teenager. You don't really get that much about her in the present day. So I think that's fair that that scene you get to know a little bit more about her and the type of person she is. Um, the next thing, the next thing is, you know, Zoe's death. There's a lot of scenes added in the show of like Jack doing and his partner Priya doing this like investigative work and like going to the coroner's office and like we need the DNA swab tests and, you know, going and talking to Rachel's husband and investigating that lead. None of which happens in the book, or if it does, it's not, it happens, you know, off page basically. So there's not really a lot to compare how well they adapted it because it was new scenes altogether. But the next big scene is Zoe's murder in her home while Jack is at Detective Priya's house having dinner with her. And that was a scene where I was like, oh my God, it's Priya. Like she has no motive and it doesn't make any sense, but somehow it's her because she keeps disappearing out of the dinner and she like seems like she has a crush on Jack and it's like a weird dynamic between them. And like while he's there with her having a couple of beers and hanging out, his sister's being murdered at the house. And so I was convinced reading the book the first time through, I was like, oh, it's Priya. Like I don't know how she did it, but she did it. But Zoe's killed in the bath and she takes her own blood and writes the name Andrews on the wall, which I think was skipped over in
that's not in the
in the
show.
show, but in the book that's like a clue because it's we all at least I assumed, I think the readers meant to assume that it's got something to do with Anna. So now the question is Anna the killer? Anna Andrews, is she the killer or is she the next victim? Like, you know, because they were all friends and they all had the friendship bracelets and they were all involved. But I think that scene was pretty well adapted as well. I think John Bernthal should get some sort of award for his acting when he finds his sister dead. Like that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, when he calls her sissy, it's so sad.
Yeah. The scene mirrored something that happens in Dexter, the show, and so that was kind of an interesting. His wife is killed in the bathtub like that, and so it was a very similar visual to what I've seen in that show, and it's always brutal because
Yeah.
water and blood mixing always makes for a huge
Yeah.
mess and makes it a much bigger statement for the viewer watching it. I do think it was adapted really well, and I think that his emotions came through really well, and I really appreciated that portrayal, and it felt pretty consistent with the book. I liked
It
the
was
change, like you
frustrating.
mentioned, Jordyn, with the child being out of the house was good.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right, same. And it was frustrating to see it happen because she was scared, and I feel like there's a lot more emotion in the show than there was in the book about how scared she was. And
mm-hmm.
she went to him and she was like, "I'm scared," and he was like, "It's gonna be okay." And then of course it wasn't okay. So, um,
Guilt.
in that grief, yes, in the grief of him finding her in the tub, like he also has a lot of guilt that I feel like you can see come through in his performance, because he was like, "You're gonna be fine," and now she's dead, and then that turns to fear because he's like, "I gotta go find Anna."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because at that point, even without the clue of Andrews being written on the wall, there's no more denying that whatever, like, the killer is specifically targeting that group of friends from
Yeah.
school.
Right.
So, whether, again, we still don't have that clue. We don't know, is Anna the killer or is she the next victim? He knows for sure she's involved somehow, and the change of them still being married, he still loves her very deeply. He still wants
Mm-hmm.
to protect her, and so that's when he, tries to run out the house to go
He
find
gets
her.
the phone, so she calls him, right? Is that what
I
happens?
think so. The timing is
While
a
he's
little
still holding her.
different. Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah, because
timing's a
she's
little
already at the
different.
house with Richard, and that she's discovered that Catherine is Lexi, or
Mm-hmm.
Lexi is Catherine, whatever order it
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
So I think she calls him,
Yeah.
and that's how he knows that she's there and he's on his way. And then of course Priya freaking comes and causes a whole commotion, and
Yeah.
it was very stressful watching this.
Yeah. So
It looked to her
backtracking a
like it
little
was,
bit.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it
yeah.
definitely looked to Priya at that point like it was Jack causing all the people that
Totally.
his sister down.
Well, yeah,
It
you come
all
running out of the
added
house
up,
covered in blood.
adding up that he was covering up evidence and that he was with Rachel and all this stuff. It makes him look very guilty at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, he's been acting super shady the whole time, and so I put myself in Priya's shoes, and like I would probably also think that he was involved somehow.
Well, it's just
Um,
like, why not just come forward and be like, "Hey, so I shouldn't be on this case because I slept with this lady last night,"
yeah,
and now she's dead.
yeah,
Just like it would have solved a lot of problems, I feel like.
Yeah, they probably
yeah.
would have arrested him though and just went ahead without looking into it any further at that point too.
I don't know. I feel like he was well liked and respected as a police officer. Like if he had just come forward to his captain in the beginning and said, I was with her last night, but maybe he didn't have an alibi. I don't know why he freaked out, but I feel like a cop would know better. I don't know.
You'd like to think so, but he also would have been fine because the next person to die was Helen Wang, and he would have, if he had done that, he
Yeah.
did get arrested, he would have been in jail. So there's
Yeah.
no way
Right.
he could be in jail and have killed Helen Wang.
Yeah.
So at the very least, he's not going to be accused of continuing to murder people, even if they still think maybe they're not connected, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so we still think that he did it for Rachel. There's no way that he could be thought of as killing Helen, and
Right.
he's not going to kill his own sister. If he was going to kill his own sister, he would have done it years ago. Why wait till now? Like all
Mm-hmm.
of those kinds of things. So yeah, I think we have no plot really though if he comes clean in the
Right.
beginning,
I
like
know. I know.
If the scuba gang doesn't split the party, there's no story. So
yeah. Um, Backtracking through the plot a little bit. So Anna and Richard, her cameraman, have been like sleeping out of the hotel, bed and breakfast, whatever, in the town, and somebody called and canceled their reservation. Somebody from, we don't know who it is at this point, but their reservation is canceled. They have nowhere to stay. And then Richard says, "Oh, my in-laws have a house near here. We can go stay there." And Anna's like, "I really don't want to do that. Like, I'm super uncomfortable. Like, in the book, like, you cheated on your wife with me before. I don't want to go to your in-laws." And then in the show, we actively slept together within the confines of this TV show, like a couple
Mm-hmm.
episodes ago. Like, and another addition to the show is Lexi Jones, his wife, showed up in town and like came into the investigation and interviewed Rachel's husband and like basically started competing with Anna one-on-one, like face-to-face, for who can get the better story out of this
Mm-hmm.
situation. And so now it's like, not only are we going to go to your in-laws house, where your in-laws, like where she assumes the in-laws are currently living, but also in the show, now your actual wife is also there. And I really don't want to go there with your wife, who is my like professional
Nemesis.
enemy, my nemesis, and also who, like, I've slept with you, and like 3 days ago I slept with you. Like, that's super uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. She feels like she doesn't have a choice. I got really suspicious of Richard at that moment, because like, oh, maybe he's the killer for some reason. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna get her. Like, I don't know.
So I was like, okay, because I quote knew that Lexi was the killer. So I was like, yeah, he's in on it. He's trying to get her to their place so they can kill Anna next.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the order of events. If Jack already knew, like if he was already, no, I guess he wasn't, or if she had already died, sister had already died or not. I don't remember.
They're
But
happening simultaneously, I think.
okay, so
Like,
yeah, I was getting nervous for Anna at this point because I did not think that she was the killer.
yeah, I think I had gotten past thinking she was the killer at this point too. By this time, I think we had gotten enough of the flashbacks to figure out that, because in the book her name is still Kat, so I'm like, Catherine, she married Richard Jones, so now Kat Jones is Catherine Kelly, who, again, a little bit of difference in what happened between the book and the show, but in the book, Catherine Kelly is violently raped by multiple men, and it is all after Rachel and Helen and Zoe basically pimp her out.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Anna are victimized in this situation after Rachel, Helen, and Zoe pimp them out to these men. And Anna in the book is the one to like kind of free herself and escape and run through the woods to get home, and she is not actually raped. But Catherine Kelly is. In the show, they switch that around, and Catherine Kelly is the one who escapes, and Anna is the one who is violently abused by these men. Um, but yeah, I think at this point in the book, we had gotten enough of those flashbacks to kind of put everything together. And I was with you. I fully thought, I was like, it's Kat Jones. And you know what? Good for her. They deserve it. Like, Anna didn't deserve it. She also wasn't in on it. But I
Right.
understand her, like, you left. You didn't help me. You didn't go to the police and get somebody to come back to help me. You just left and let that happen to me.
Well, and she
Which,
invited her to the party thinking she was being a good
yes,
friend, not knowing
Right.
about it. So, but how Kat sees it
exactly.
is, you invited me for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So when I thought that the killer was Kat, I was like, you know what? Good for you. I support women's rights and wrongs. Go get them. Like, they deserve it. I was very much in support of Kat Jones getting her long deserved revenge. That's not what happens though. It is, but it isn't. She did lure Anna there, but
Well,
she's not the killer. We
as
find
I
out there's
understand it, it wasn't her luring her there. It was the killer manipulating both of them.
yes, yeah,
Mom wanted her there, and Mom's goal was to get her home, to
Mm-hmm.
come see her instead, but that caused them both to end up at the house there at the end. So that was the
yeah,
mistake, that both seemed like it was there in the movie, the TV show, and the book. That's what the ultimate goal was to get them together.
yeah. You're right. You're right. I kind of like the book version better. I thought it was a lot more like horror movie, like slasher movie feeling, and it was a lot more intense, a lot scarier. The way that the book did it, because there's Jack takes Priya's car and then he crashes it, and so this car is left in the woods. And Anna, somebody attacks Richard and he's on the ground, and Anna's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" She sees Kat Jones, trigger warning for suicide. She sees Kat Jones like hanging from the ceiling, by the necktie from the school. Is like, oh my God, she killed him and then herself. Like, I got to get out of here. But then Kat Jones is alive and she lets herself down and chases Anna through the woods, and it's all very scary. She bumps into dementia mom in the woods. It's very intense and very scary, and I think that the show, like, kind of was anticlimactic the way that they did it, where it's just a Lexi versus Anna like fight in the house, and then Priya just comes in and shoots Lexi.
I was pretty on edge during this scene. I wouldn't say that it was anticlimactic. Maybe compared to the book, but they are different mediums, and I definitely, like, I was on the edge of my seat thinking Anna was gonna die until she got shot by Priya.
Yeah, the book is pretty intense with that being in the woods, and then I think it's mom that kills Lexi in the end, grabs the gun and shoots her, and
no,
gets
they
to
hit her
make
with
that kill.
They hit her with the
Isn't it?
car, I think. I think Anna was behind the wheel. They get into a car and they crush her into the tree, I
But I thought
think.
mom found the gun on the ground and shot her still to kill her the rest of the way, so there wasn't any trail or something at that point. I don't know. I forget, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but
I know
I
there was
remember
the
somebody shooting
knife.
her.
I think Priya still might have shot her.
Maybe it was Priya, but
And there
it
was a
got confusing
knife.
at that point a little bit in the book. I feel like
Yeah,
it was like
it was
so
a
much
little.
happening all at once, and I'm like, okay,
I also read it 2 weeks ago, guys. It's not living in my brain anymore.
Right.
good.
We've read like 2 books since then.
Yeah, literally.
Me too.
Some of us can't do that much, Chris. I'm doing my best out here. So yeah, and that was like the final red herring in the book, at least, was after all this stuff happens, they hit her with the car, somebody gets shot, somebody shoots somebody. It's a whole tragic mess. And then the last, like, the mystery, so in the book there's her POV, which is Anna, his POV, which is Jack, and then this mystery third person where we don't know who it is, and it's the killer. We don't know who the killer is. That POV, like the second to last chapter in that POV, is like, I have the knife in my purse. And that was the final thing that I was like, oh my God, it was Anna the whole time, because Anna has it in like her purse. But I was so, or no, it's Anna's chapter. She says she has a knife in her purse. And I'm like, what the heck? And then the next chapter is the third person. And they're like, yeah, I can't believe Anna put the knife in her purse. I was like, wait, it's not Anna? What's going on? I was so, literally up until the last second, I was still guessing at who was the killer and who did it. So the book is really well written that way, how it keeps you guessing the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we get our little like epilogue, basically, where it was Anna's mom the whole time. It was dementia grandma is the one who did it all. So the final like kind of twist / plot reveal, she does not actually have dementia. In the book, she does have cancer though, so she knows she's dying, she's going to die soon, and all she wants is for her daughter to come home. And so she also finds the videotape that Anna had from the events of her 16th birthday, where the rapes in the woods happen, and her mom finds that and watches it and sees what happened. And she's like, that's why my daughter doesn't want to be here. She has all this trauma. I can fix it by killing the people who put her in that situation, and that will cure her trauma, and then she'll come home and be with me.
Well,
I
I
don't
think
think
part
that's
of it
how
was
trauma
also
works, but okay.
I think part of it was also her wanting Jack and her back together.
Yeah.
Was part of her
well, and
goal
she
too.
feels responsible for that because she was watching the
was
baby
there.
when the baby passed. Yeah.
Yeah. So the baby died of SIDS, or what we call SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. So nobody did anything wrong. There was no foul play. Like, that's consistent in the book and the show, whereas the doctors say, like, there's nothing that anybody could have done to prevent this. It was just a tragedy that happened. But the mom still carries that weight of guilt because she was the one babysitting at the time. Anna carries the guilt because it was her birthday and she was out of the house. Jack carries the guilt because he was the one pushing so hard, like, we should go out for your birthday, let your mom watch the baby. Like, everybody's just carrying all this guilt for this tragedy. And so the other, one of the final reveals is that Anna's mom had killed Anna's dad because he was an abuser. So again, I think he deserved it, but whatever. he was an abuser. She killed him, buried him in the yard, and that's why the mom can't leave to go be with Anna wherever Anna happens to be. Anna has to come to her because she can't sell the house because there's literally a body buried in the backyard. And so we get this kind of somehow sweet, like a mother-daughter healing that happens, where in the book Anna like puts a patio in the backyard to like pave over where the bones are buried, and then they can maintain ownership of the house and they rent it out so that mom can get cancer treatments and like be free of the house without having to worry about anybody digging up the past and finding out what happened. In the show, they completely remove the plot line of the dad. He doesn't exist at all. Basically, he just like left. He didn't, but we don't know that he was an abuser. There is no dead body in the yard
we know of.
that we know of. Yeah. And yeah, everything just kind of gets wrapped up where it's still, I guess, for the town, it's still a mystery of who the killer was, or they kind of pin it on Kat/Lexi. But mom gets away with everything scot-free, and Anna and Jack get back together and they adopt Jack's niece because her mother, Zoe, was killed. And they just get to play happy family. And the show even ends with Anna being pregnant again. So they, heal their marriage, adopt a little girl, get pregnant again, and everybody's, riding off into the sunset.
Yep. Good big old recipe for happily ever after.
Yeah, just a couple of murders and some some other crazy stuff, and then it's fine. Everything will work out fine. All right. Final thoughts on anything? Did anybody have a bookmark moment, a favorite thing that happened, or something that you really hated? I've already kind of talked about what I really hated, but
I think the bookmarked moment for me is just like we've already talked about, is the cast. Like that's what pulled us in. It was a good cast. I think that my gosh, cannot remember her name for the life of me right now. Tessa Thompson was a little dry, but I think I said in the last episode, I think she is just kind of like a drier actress. But for the most part, I think like that is why I watched the show. I wouldn't. I mean, this isn't really my genre, like my favorite genre, but it was fine for what it was.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a book I think I would have picked up otherwise, but I found myself enjoying it. It was definitely something that I don't mind branching out and checking out something new once in a while. And yeah, the cast was great. Check out their performances as something other than what I know them as in the Marvel universe, and so I really thought that was fun. I don't think I have any other bookmark moments. We talked about most everything last week and this week that I would have brought up, but yeah, I think it was a solid story for sure that I definitely enjoyed checking out, and better for experiencing it. But I don't know if I'll keep reading any other things from the author or anything.
Yeah, right. It was an entertaining read and it was an entertaining watch, but it's not something I'll revisit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I don't think I really have a bookmark moment either, because my like internal definition of a bookmark moment is like a favorite moment, but I think the story was so dark from beginning to end that I'm struggling to find a favorite
Right.
moment in all the darkness. Like there's a lot of times where I was like watching through my fingers, like I don't want to see this, like I don't like this, and like getting
Same.
to certain scenes of the book, I was like, oh, I really don't want to have to read this anymore, but like it's literally my job right now, so I'm gonna do it. Like,
My
yeah,
bad.
no, it's fine. We talked about it. I just wasn't like mentally prepared for it, and that's okay. So note to self: check trigger warnings from now on. I think it's also different for me, like because it's a contemporary book, it's set in the real world. So those types of like dark things like murder and rape and like all these things when you're reading it, for me, it's easier to digest in a fantasy world because it's like, it's easier to be like, it's not real because there's dragons and magic and all these other stuff. Like, it's not real. But when it's set in this kind of modern society where there's cars and cell phones and guns and all these like normal everyday stuff, it's like, oh, it is really real. And so it's a little harder to digest that way. But yeah, the John Bernthal was great. I think he's great in everything he does, like not just because I have a crush on him. Like I think he actually is a really good actor. So he deserves some recognition for this. Probably not like a whole Emmy or anything, but just acknowledge that he did really well. And then I think that's it. Unless anybody has any final comments, we can wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Okie dokie. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And we'll see you next week for whatever we've got next.
We're doing Project Hail Mary next.
Yes. And we may or may not have a special guest for that. So tune in. Adios, book watchers.
Bye.
Goodbye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of BookWatch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at BookWatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah-Daye, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the BookWatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/BookWatchLounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/BookWatchPodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.